Hello everyone, my name is Seth. Today I'm going to give you my review of The Watchers. It is almost Halloween and we're continuing our theme this month of kind of horror, spooky thriller films. The Watchers came out earlier this year and it is written and directed by Ishana Shyamalan, who is the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. This film is her directorial debut and it is based on a book by the same name. The trailers definitely caught my attention and I think it has a really interesting idea, so I was definitely excited to watch it. Also, shout out to I Like Scream and Ice Cream, who commented on one of my videos a little bit ago asking if I could do a review for this. So here you are, I'm doing The Watchers. And if anybody else has any movie suggestions they'd like to see me do, leave those in the comment section down below. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We are on the road to 300 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer. So if you're new here, please subscribe. And if you're not new here, share this video around with your friends and family. It'll definitely make my day. The Watchers follows our main character, Mina, who gets stranded in a forest in Ireland, and after finding shelter, she becomes trapped along with 3 strangers while they are stalked by mysterious creatures during the night. I think one of the big things around this film is that it is Ishana Shyamalan's directorial debut, so I'm going to kind of address that first. I'm going to go ahead and say I think this is a decent debut. Now, this isn't like an amazing debut like Get Out was for Jordan Peele, but I think this was a decent debut. There's enough here that makes me think, yeah, she has a good eye for film, and I would like to see her do something else after this. You definitely can see through this film that she has potential, and you can also definitely see that she is inspired and taught by her dad. There's a lot of shots in this film that are just very pretty. And it seems like for the most part, she knew exactly what she wanted to do from scene to scene and from shot to shot. And there's a few impressive shots in this film where she's kind of dealing with this two-way mirror situation, and she handles that all very well. But like I said, I think she has a good eye for film, and I am excited to see what she does next. I think, unfortunately, my biggest issues with the film comes really from the writing. There's some pacing issues here. I think some of that is kind of baked into the script. Some of that I think is a little bit showing of her inexperience as a director, but she's also the writer of this film. But I almost feel like this might would have been better served, especially for a directorial debut, is if she just directed a script that she didn't have a hand in writing. But throughout this film, I think you can pick up on a few things here and there that tend to show up in some more inexperienced filmmakers. For example, there's some frankly unnecessary narration in this film, and instead of having somebody narrate this, you could have just shown us. For example, one of the characters has narration during the film at one point, and it says something along the lines of, "Oh, months went by and winter came." Well, that's something that you easily could have showed us. You didn't have to have any narration there. If you've been watching The Penguin, you'll know they were able to do that here in this last episode. They were able to show that a chunk of time went by and they didn't have to stop, have any kind of narration, didn't have to stop and say, oh, hey, you know what? It's been 6 months or it's been 4 months since that last thing happened. You just got it through the context. You got it through what it showed us. So I think one of the most important things is show, don't tell. Yeah, sometimes you got to give audience some flat out information, but for the most part, a lot of things can get done through showing us instead of telling us, especially when you're using narration. And I feel like sometimes using narration is kind of a crutch when you're adapting a book. I think you can find a better way to get around that. Another part that stands out to me is that they're kind of toward the end, around the turn to the 3rd act. There's this huge exposition dump through video logs. At that point, we're starting to kind of build momentum, and I think it kind of just puts on the brakes and just stops any kind of momentum we were starting to build. For a little bit, it's nice to get more information about the kind of area we're in, about the circumstances that our characters are in, but it goes on for entirely way too long, and it kind of starts to drag a little bit. There's also some very abrupt changes to some characters. Instead of having characters kind of change slowly, again, it's kind of in the narration. It's to something along the lines of, oh, we were together for so long, and we're in the same place for so long, and it started to affect us mentally. Well, don't tell me that. Show me that. Make it gradual. There's just some really abrupt changes, and for the characters, yeah, maybe it's been months, but for us, this change happened immediately, like a scene or two later, and that was kind of jarring. I think showing a more gradual change could have worked better for the story, the characters, and the character arcs. And I think the dialogue is a bit clunky at times. Sometimes they're speaking in a way that just sounded very odd. It just sounded like, nobody talks like this. And it just kind of sounded so unnatural. It pulled me out a little bit from time to time. And Ashana is the Shyamalan, so of course there has to be a twist in this film. And I don't necessarily think that the twist was that successful. And I think partially I blame that on the book, but it just didn't work for me, mostly because I saw it coming from like a mile away. When you watch this film, you'll know what I'm talking about, but there's just this character that doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the characters, and the twist just, you can see it coming. But regardless of from the book, from the film, whatever, I don't think it works, mostly because anybody basically can pick this out. And it's not like, oh, you go back and watch it and you can totally see. No, it's like you watch and you can pick up, hey, this is kind of weird. Maybe this is going to happen. And it does. But the movie treats it as this big revelation. I'll also say I think the ending is a little bit underwhelming and it gets a little bit goofy. And there are multiple times throughout this film where I feel like they could have built tension better. There's too many times where they start to build tension and then they just kind of release the tension way too early. And maybe they use like one of the false jump scares with like an animal jumping out from a bush or something like that. That just doesn't work for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are some genuinely creepy moments in this film, and I really enjoyed those. I just wish there was more of that. But I think maybe one of the big issues for me in this film is that the longer this goes on, the more we start to learn, I think the less interesting this whole premise becomes. Now, that might not be the case for everybody, but it was the case for me. And that can happen from time to time. You have this idea, and the more you kind of unravel this idea, the less interested you get. But I think the good stories really find a way to keep you invested and keep you asking more questions and wanting to know more and more. Maybe you answer a question, and then maybe two more come up. That didn't happen here. So whenever they would reveal something, I would just kind of be like, yeah, okay, that's fine, I guess. This film starts very strong, but unfortunately, it just can't really stick the landing. It just can't really finish up the idea. And I would say, as a whole, the characters aren't really all that interesting. We get some good performances, and I'll go over that in a little bit, but the characters are really just surface level the whole time. For as much time as we get to spend with these characters, especially kind of like confined, I wish we learned more about them. I wish we dug deeper into their character, but we really don't get to learn a whole lot about these characters. Our main character has a backstory and a character arc that we've seen a ton of times before, and they don't really do anything new or interesting with it. But even though the characters might not have had a lot of depth to them, the performances were still good. Dakota Fanning plays our main character, and all throughout the film, she does a good job. It's nothing mind-blowing, but she does enough to really kind of try her best to round out this character and give this character a little bit more life. The other actress that I recognized in this film was Georgina Campbell from Barbarian, which if you have not seen Barbarian, please go do so. That is such a good film. But she didn't really have a ton to do in this film, but the little bit that she had to do, she did a good job with. I think a lesser actress would have made this role completely forgettable, but she does a good job with this role considering the lack of depth. The other two characters that we really focus on in this film are played by Oliver Finnegan and Alwyn Foyer. They both did a good job with what they were asked to do. But like I said before, there's just not a lot of substance here. I think these performances show that these actors are good performers, and that if Shauna Shyamalan was able to get some good performances out of these actors, even though there wasn't much to work with in the script. And really, that's what you want from a director. You want your director to bring out the best in their actors. Overall, I think this movie is fine. There's definitely some good here, but unfortunately, I think there's just about as much bad as there is good. I can definitely see the potential of a Shauna Shyamalan, and even though this might not have been a fantastic directorial debut, I think this was a decent one. I think this is a good debut that she can build on and improve upon. I think she can learn from this film and get better as she goes on to her next film, which I'm definitely excited to see what she does next. But I would love to see her tackle a film where she doesn't really have a hand in writing the script. She's just fully focused on directing. I think there were some pacing issues throughout this film, and the suspense wasn't always built as well as it could have been. And unfortunately, it gets a little bit less interesting the more we learn, but this film started out very strong. There are genuinely some creepy moments here, and like I said, the beginning is very, very strong. We have some pretty good performances from our actors here, even though there's not a lot of depth to the characters. But overall, I think this film is enjoyable enough. But it's a film that I don't think I can outright recommend to everybody. If you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan films, I think this might be one that you could really enjoy. But for everybody else, I'm not so sure. For me, I think I'm like right down the middle on this one, and I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. But that's it. That's my review of The Watchers. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. If you have any other films you'd like to see me review, let me know those in the comment section below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere, @CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.